Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick, and we're back here on a Monday. It's been a while since we did one. Let me turn my mic volume down a little bit. And we've got linebackers today, offensive line on Wednesday, and then tight ends and running backs on Friday. So we're going to cover 4 positions for you this week. Justin, how are you?
Bobby Skinner, I am coming to you from Virginia, the state of lovers. That's apparently the slogan. Xfinity NASCAR race was fun yesterday. Not Josh Berry. John Hunter Nemechek literally burned the house down. His car caught on fire. We're going to see a good cup race today. And we have 3 episodes for you this week. We are cramming in one final big week of draft previews. And of course, we'll cap it off with wide receivers next week, but today we got off-ball linebackers. How are you, Bobby?
I'm good. Recording a podcast 9:30 in the morning on a Sunday.
Is this the earliest that you've ever recorded a podcast in your life?
I don't know, but being on a Sunday makes it like 2 hours earlier than it actually is.
True. Good point.
It was like, it's like all Saturday. It's like got to get up early tomorrow and record a podcast, and I'm excited about. Justin, we got linebackers today. First, this episode was brought to you by one very special person. Is David Kidday, who I wonder if that's Micah Kidday's brother. Like,
you know what?
Not even joking about like relationship, like relating people to their last names. Like, I just wonder that maybe it's his dad or something.
Maybe where the Kidday family goes. Patreon.com/TalkingGiants. You know the drill. You know what's going on. You know the deal. You know the dealio. Patreon.com/TalkingGiants. I'm not even going to go into it because I want to get into off-ball linebackers so bad, Bobby Skinner.
All right, so let's talk about off-ball linebackers, inside linebackers, stack linebackers, whatever you want to call them in today's NFL. And the Giants signing Bobby Okereke made this a much less position of need, right? Where going into the offseason, I know wide receiver was like the sexy position everyone wanted, but it was like, we desperately need a linebacker. Desperately need a linebacker. And the Giants still need linebacker help. But Okereke does give them some breathing room to come in and be their Mike linebacker. But it's a position that they can upgrade early. And I think, more, with their 3 7th-round picks, I bet you one of them is going to end up being a linebacker. Like, that seems to be a position that gets drafted late and guys can turn into players. We saw the Giants use 2 of their day 3 picks last year on off-ball linebackers and McFadden and Beavers. So I will say I am frustrated with the state of linebackers in college football.
This is what I tried asking you a couple weeks ago, too, and you weren't really, getting the question. I was asking you about, is there such a thing as Mike linebacker anymore? But go into it. I really want to hear this answer.
Well, there is, but it's just the college game is it's not breeding these guys. Like every single guy, almost every single guy we talk about is 6'1" or shorter and less than 230 pounds or 235 pounds. Like there's one guy, we're going to start off with a Mike linebacker who, he's a linebacker when men were men type guy.
Whoa.
But it's just it takes a lot of projecting with this position, including early guys guys are supposed to go in the 1st or 2nd round like Drew Sanders and Trenton Simpson, where it's we've seen guys be highly touted the linebacker spot and not perform, and sometimes that's been on the opposite side where you take a guy like Jamin Davis who, hey, he's the size, but he doesn't have the processing skills as a linebacker, and he ends up, he's an average linebacker for the Commanders, but he's not living up to being picked 19th overall. So we'll get into all of it.
But I will say, I do think it's fair to say that this is just a weak linebacker class. So yes, it's extremely frustrating that you don't have, maybe more than one guy that you can point to and really say, I think that guy's going to be a Mike linebacker, and I know that this guy's going to be a good Mike linebacker, right? I think there's multiple players here that are going to be good NFL players. It's just a matter of what their role is going to be and what scheme they go into. But I mean, even last year where you had some guys with that lacked a little bit of size. You still had Devin Lloyd, who was seen as a highly talented player. You still had Devin Lloyd. Devin. Give me names. I'm getting names wrong. Nakobe Dean and Devin Lloyd.
Well, then you saw a guy like Leo Chanel go late, pick with a comp pick in the 3rd round. So yeah. it's just such a weird spot where they are. And I think teams are going to start adjusting to, like, we've tried taking these undersized guys who plays, fast early, but may not be great like at just playing linebacker in the NFL. I think it's going to transition because we've seen the last few years, the guys who succeed are your traditional linebackers.
Right.
Logan Wilson, who the Bengals picked up, Chad Muma with the Jaguars last year. So I think we're gonna see there be some transition. So the first guy we're talking about out of Iowa is flat out what you want in a linebacker, and that is Jack Campbell, who comes in at 6'5", 249 pounds. And Justin, I know this guy's not like touted as some crazy athlete, but he moves pretty damn well. Ran a 4.65 40, so that's not amazing, but had a 37-inch vertical jump, 3-cone drill of 6.74. And again, he is your traditional Mike linebacker who knows a position in and out, and he moves well. And his strength is great, and he just brings it every play. Like, you see the power that he possesses every play without having to be a guy who has to get super fast downhill and wind up into a play. He plays technically like he's a technician taking on blocks. Stays square, stacks them, is able to shed them, and you just see consistently, Justin, that, hey, is this going to be a guy who blows up plays to have, 12 tackles for a loss in a season? No, but he's going to be one of the best linebackers and consistent linebackers that keeps your defense together consistently in the NFL.
Yeah. You mentioned the frame. I mean, it's rare to see in today's game. It goes with our kind of like our opening conversation, right? Awareness plus athleticism. You talk about this all the time. I think we were talking about it with safeties, where you can have all the athleticism in the world, but if you don't have the awareness, if you don't have the instincts, if you don't have the football IQ to pounce on a play, to read and react to something, then it doesn't matter how much athleticism you have. Or if you do read and react to things quickly, and if you do process things quickly, even if you aren't the most athletic person in the world, it can kind of make up for it. And Jack Campbell certainly uses that patience, and then he pounces. And he's not going to be over pursuing. He stays square and balanced. It's rare to see him with the shoulders turned and not ready to make like a balanced a play on a ball carrier. He's always ready to make a play. So this is probably like the freakiest thing about him, Bobby. He doesn't need to shed blocks to make a play on a ball carrier. He has the strength, the football IQ to still be engaged with the blocker, make himself available enough to also make a productive run stop. And this is close to the line of scrimmage, by the way. He's not allowing ground, not getting his ass kicked and then shedding a block. He will literally have one shoulder blocking, with an offensive lineman engaged with them, and then he'll use another arm, another shoulder to tackle a ball carrier. It's really, really good stuff. And I agree. I wouldn't call him a playmaker, but this is the Mike linebacker that so many teams in the NFL are really looking for.
Well, he's got the size, and he's just a technician for playing the run, which is what your job is to play in the NFL as a linebacker. It is your job to play the run. That is 80% of what your job is. The coverage stuff, for the most part, you're dropping to an area and trying to cover grass and just not trying to be a liability in coverage. But we'll talk about his coverage in a second. And like you said, he's always in the right spot. There's no guessing to his game. He's got, he is going to fit in the run well, patiently, and again, always be in the right spot. And he's got the strength to where, like you said, there's going to be some other guys we talk about who are more fun to watch than Jack Campbell, but he just plays it where, hey, I'm going to lever this offensive lineman, like you said, get in my gap, stay square, and I'm going to make a tackle. I'm going to tackle this guy for a 2-yard gain, and I'm going to get this offense off schedule. So he does that consistently. And then speaking of coverage, Justin, I think he reroutes guys really well. And the best coverage rep out of any of these guys we've watched is Jack Campbell intercepting C.J. Stroud, where he uses that robot technique and flips his hips, gets around, and makes a leaping catch against Ohio State to intercept him. So again, no, then you're going to be Fred Warner in coverage, but most guys aren't. Even guys who have the athletic profile of Fred Warner aren't going to be Fred Warner in coverage. To me, my question is, can you get to your zone? Can you pick up man? Can you understand what the offense is running and close windows? And that's what Jack Campbell does in coverage.
Yeah, I think over-analyzing linebackers in coverage is a little overrated because it kind of depends on what an NFL team is going to ask you to do. Are they going to ask you to be Fred Warner? Even the Colts asked Bobby Okereke to cover some difficult assignments. So I think it's a little overrated just to overanalyze it, because I know a lot of people like to talk about it. We were even talking about a little bit of lack of athleticism. I forgot to mention this: 6.74 3-cone, 4.24 short shuttle were number one among linebackers at the combine. Joe Schoen likes to talk about smart, tough, dependable. He's a 2-year captain. Coaches speak on his toughness, his work ethic and practice, and his selflessness. 143 and 128 tackles over the last 2 years. Some stats, and then 15 career pass deflections, 8 in 2021 alone. And you don't see a lot of off-ball linebackers that make plays like that. And we didn't mention his age. He's 22, turning 23 in the month of August.
Yeah, that's the one nice thing about this linebacker group. Outside of Daiyan, Henley, basically they're mostly pretty damn young. So like I like that you mentioned his 3-cone drill and his short shuttle, because for the 40 time he had the second worst out of linebackers in the combine, which is obviously not good. But when you're playing the run, sideline to sideline speed absolutely matters. And I think he does a good job processing and getting to the sideline, which makes you play faster in your 40 time. But within the box, he moves really well. And that shows up in those 3-cone drill and the 20-yard shuttles. So I like this guy. So I see most people put him behind Sanders and Simpson. To me, he's the best linebacker in the class. He's the only one who I think is like Sanders is like a borderline first rounder. Campbell to me is like, I think this guy's worth a late first round pick.
Yeah, there's projection with those two guys, and we'll talk about them both on this episode. But there's projection.
He's my pick, Justin, because it's like I think this guy is worth of a first round pick.
Yeah. If
he falls to 57, which I think there is a chance that happens, then he's my pick. Because I'm telling you, what Leo Chanel dropping to where he did last year, it's teams. We'll see. When will teams kind of readjust the way they view linebacker? Will it be this year? Because if they view linebacker the way they did last year, Jack Campbell will probably be there at pick 57.
Yeah, and it's also a question of will teams, and then also how do the Giants view it? Because we know the Giants, they like their athletes. They like guys that run fast, and I think they may. I'm not going to say that they're going to prioritize like Drew Sanders, with a taking an off-ball linebacker with that high of a pick, but I have a feeling that in the building they value an athlete like that versus a football player like Jack Campbell is, and I kind of do disagree with that. With specifically this Mike linebacker spot, your weak side backer, your Will. I want them to be the best athlete in the world. You can run sideline to sideline and attack. But my Mike linebacker, I don't need to be the best athlete in the world. But I don't know if the Giants, Joe Schoen, and maybe even Wink Martindale, I don't know if they see it like that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, like even going back to Buffalo, where they have Matt Milano, who's the All-Pro, and then Tremaine Edmonds, who's the high draft pick, the better athlete. But it's like Milano's the better linebacker. And I'm not saying Okereke is going to get to Edmonds, and Campbell will get to Matt Milano, but it would be nice to kind of have that dynamic of Campbell and Okereke next to each other.
For sure.
And I know, like you said, they're not. Wink Martindale likes to run dime. It's more than, any coach in the NFL. So you're not going to have two linebackers on the field as much, but it's like the whole, this team runs the most 10 personnel. Okay, that makes up like 5% of the plays. Yeah. Like you're running with tight ends on the field 95. So like I remember when the Giants hired Brian Dable, it's like they ran no 10 personnel the last 2 years. Brian Dable ran the most. It's like
I
but
talked about that a little bit.
That's still the difference of like 50 plays.
Yeah.
So it's like almost every game the Giants were playing both their linebackers on the field a ton for the Giants. And that was with horrible linebackers, like worst linebacker play in the NFL. So imagine if they had two good ones. I'm sure they would like to get Tony Jefferson off the field a little more if they had Jack Campbell and Bobby Okereke. So, all right, the next guy, I do like this next guy, and it's Arkansas linebacker Drew Sanders. And he's flawed, Justin. And he transferred to Arkansas out of Alabama, and he's new to the stack linebacker position. Like really only has 1 year where he played edge with Alabama, and he racked up numbers. Had 103 tackles, 9.5 sacks, 13.5 tackles for loss, and an interception. He is a raw athlete who flies around the field, and like I said, racks up tackles. He's racking Willie, rack ball. And again, he has the speed and burst to just continuously make plays for him. He plays quick and downhill. I think he follows his keys in the run game pretty well. There's times where he can overplay it, but for the most part, he's in good position. Justin, he needs to add weight and strength. He doesn't really bring pop to blocks or tackles, even though if he gets some momentum, he'll fire into them, but you're not going to play like that consistently in the NFL. Here's why I'm excited about him more so than other linebackers who kind of fit the mold that he is. One, he's new to the position, but he plays fast. We're going to talk about a guy like Simpson. Like there's no hesitation in the box with Drew Sanders. Like there's times where he'll lose, and he really needs to improve as a tackler too, and it shows up like strength wise, and he'll just miss tackles too. So there's a lot of growth that goes into his game, but he's someone that I'd be willing to bet turns into a good linebacker because there's newness to the position, and the newness isn't hesitation. It's, if anything, it's more like let's temper that aggression a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Drew Sanders is fun, and if you wanna start a drinking game for this Talking Giants episode, take a drink every time that we say that a linebacker needs to add size and strength to his game for the rest of this episode. You'll be really buzzed by the end of it. Everything about his game is quick and shifty feet, quick hands. Drew Sanders, by the way, 22, turning 23 in the month of December. I want to talk about how he actually uses his hands, because I think out of everybody that we're talking about, Bobby, I think he uses his hands the best. I mean, I didn't mention this about Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell doesn't even use his hands. I think that is coachable, by the way. I think that's easily, you can kind of coach that in. But Drew Sanders naturally, and I think this comes from his former experience as an edge rusher at Alabama, kind of just that instinct of, I'm maybe gonna swipe and shed every once in a while, or I'm gonna utilize a swim move here. It's fun and it's cool, and it works for Drew Sanders because of how quick he is, because of how quick he can also use his hands. Shoots and shimmies. So this is something I want to talk about too. I want to talk about his lateral movement, and Ivan Pace Jr. falls in this category too of he just shimmies into
trying to
gaps.
slip blocks rather than take on blocks.
Yeah, and that's the word that I just kept using. Scout Justin. He just shimmies into and fills gaps, ready to make plays on the ball carrier, and he really works best laterally. He has knockback power as a blitzer, and comes in with such a head of steam. 39 pressures registered.
Fires off.
Yeah, 39 pressures registered. 39 pressures on the season. He registered a pressure in every game except one. 9 games of 3+ pressures. So out of all the guys we're talking about today, Drew Sanders, like I said, he uses his hands the best by far. In this kind of new age NFL Mike linebacker, kind of like we're talking about, Bobby, does he project as a possible Mike in the NFL, or do you think he's got to be a weak side?
Yeah.
You got to just let him rock and roll.
He's got the size. He's got the ability to add weight and still play fast. And with pass rush, obviously he's got like the lateral moves, but you can't live off lateral moves in the NFL. But like you said, he brings knockback power. Like he will fire into offensive lineman's chest and be able to, push the pocket. And then when guys are waiting for that, that's when you can use a lateral ability. When you're a guy who works off of just slipping blocks and only lateral ability, well, you're going to be game planned against, and it's not going to work. But I think that's why I like him too. Is like he kind of has that ability to, hey, he's going to slip gaps, but in the run and pass rush situations. But there's going to be times where he takes you on, and he's going to try and fire into your chest and deconstruct whatever block you got coming at him. So he plays quick, downhill, and I think he follows his keys in the run pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. But he does need to kind of clean up the missed tackles. 18% career missed tackle rate. I think there's a lack of confidence in pursuit angles in the open field. And then, kind of maybe when you have that little bit of lack of confidence, you're not entering the ball carrier at a good spot, and then you're missing a tackle. So
and he goes
just
too low.
That up.
He tries to ankle tackle guys.
I call it ankle diving.
And also like like running backs are going to fall forward against Drew Sanders, where it's like this guy obviously needs to add mass. Like you don't see that with some of the other guys we're going to talk about who are a little light because they're in smaller frames, where Drew Sanders is 6'4". So when you're 6'4", and like guys are going to get under your pads and again be able to move forward. I want to talk about him in coverage because he's different than any of the other guys. So there's some awesome plays. He also needs to be coached up a lot because there's way too many times where he is out of place, where he's almost like aggressive and on some key downs, like some 3rd and longs where it's like, man, you need to be smarter about this. You got to know, you have to have some awareness of what the offense is doing. And they were able to get him out of place, and they're converting 3rd and longs, turning plays into touchdowns. So again, like we talk about with these linebackers, a lot of them are just spot dropping, which can be boring. With Sanders, there's some really good stuff in coverage too, but it's like he needs to be coached up on a lot because he will be picked on. Like we said with linebackers, coverage can be a little overrated. For the most part, you're spot dropping and playing a zone. But if you play the way Drew Sanders played at Arkansas in the NFL, he's going to be a linebacker where you go into a week and say, we're going to pick on this guy. We're going to go after this guy, especially on 3rd down. Like on 3rd down, we're looking for him on the field and trying to get him out of place.
So what's your grade?
High second. 1st round talent, high 2nd round pick.
I can get down with that.
Like there's obviously flaws, but like there's so much positive about his game that I'm in on Drew Sanders. Like I'm in on Drew Sanders. Again, I have him 2nd out of the linebackers after Jack Campbell, but I think he's definitely worth a high 2nd round pick. And
he's a playmaker.
Yeah. So it's again, watch the linebackers of the past years to see how well they've converted to the NFL. There's going to be some growth there that's going to be needed, but he's going to be a playmaker for our team, and I hope he does grow into it because he's a fun player to watch.
Yep.
All right, next on this list is probably the guy I'm like the most off on compared to what other people view of him, and that's Clemson linebacker Trenton Simpson, who's 6'2", 235 pounds. Hell of an athlete, right? Ran a 4.4 340, 25 bench press reps. And he's only got like 1 true year as a stack linebacker. Like he played that split like star linebacker role for Clemson before this year. He really struggles into the run. And it's not just like, oh, does he have the size or the strength? It's like he doesn't know how to play the run in the box. He's got slow instincts. He's a bad processor. There's times where he even just versus zone runs, where it's like very easy keys to read. He will miss his gaps in those plays, and he just allows offensive linemen to climb to his chest completely. And at the point of attack, he's not able to disengage, and he just kind of gets worked. So there is awesome coverage ability. Like best coverage linebacker in this class. Like great instincts and recognition, reads QB's eyes. Like you put him in man coverage, he's going to do well. He can stay in the hip of tight ends. But again, a linebacker's job is to stop the run, and Trenton Simpson is bad at that job.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was hoping to see more from Simpson. I kind of turned it on, and I'm like, okay, well, a lot of people like Trenton Simpson, so I wanted to be wowed a little bit more. But he is 21, turning 22, so he is relatively young. I think he has both inside and outside linebacker experience, and he's only had 1 year as a full-time starter as an off-ball linebacker.
Well, he played that split linebacker role last year, which, again, is linebacker. It's not like he's playing edge. Like, he's playing linebacker. But getting him into the box, which is, like, where he's going to play in the NFL. Again, if you're, like we talked about with Sanders, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to struggle at the point of attack sometimes. I can deal with that. We can work with that. But a guy who is totally hesitant, allows blocks to get into his chest, and is just flat out a negative in the run game. Like, Drew Sanders was not a negative in the run game. He had negative plays, but he wasn't a negative. Trenton Simpson is a negative defender in the run game.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do you do with that guy? Like, that's, to me, that's not a high 2nd round pick. That's a third round pick, because of the talent that he has.
Yeah. If you think that you can coach him up to become more aware, read and react quicker, then he'll obviously make an impact in the league. Coaches at Clemson did rely on his versatility for 2 years as a starter, kind of putting him anywhere and everywhere. But overall awareness is needed for Simpson to just improve. But he is a great athlete. I mean, regardless, like this is going to be a guy, and
he's great in coverage too. He's not just fast.
Yeah, and I started to put down this note as, I prioritize explosive plays more on offense. Well, on defense, you need to stop explosive plays. So I think this is going to be a guy that's going to save big plays with his speed and chase down ability. He may even help turn, maybe a run that is bound to go 25 yards. He'll keep it at 10. I mean, even that's important, and that's significant too. You mentioned how he didn't just jump routes on like tight ends. There were some like plays where I saw where he was like up against like wide receivers where he's jumping on and he's making pass deflections there too. So there's strengths to Simpson's game for sure, but you could, like I said, kind of to start the show, you can be a really good athlete, but if you don't have that awareness, especially in the run game, because that's what you're primarily responsible for as a linebacker, you can have all the athleticism in the world, but if you don't have the awareness, you will get exposed, especially in the NFL, and smart coaches will expose you.
Yeah, and again, like slow instincts in the run game, like bad processing, bad taking on blocks, and again, like even you can't miss gaps versus zone. You can't. You cannot be out of place versus zone. It's you flow with the step, your gap, you play it, and there was times where he just flat out missed it versus zone, which is really bad and leads to huge runs. When you're game planning week 7 versus Trenton Simpson's defense, you're like, hey, we're going to run at this guy. We are going to run at this guy. And that will be the game plan against Trenton Simpson, is to run at him, because he's an issue. So obviously he has all the athletic ability in the world. He's never going to be some strong, like taking on offensive lineman linebacker. But if he can play smarter, play with better instincts and process better, he can become a good run defender. Like I said, never going to be Jack Campbell. But it needs so much growth that's why I view him as like a high 3rd round pick, because despite all the athletic ability, despite the 1st round talent, I'm not betting on him becoming some awesome linebacker. Like I'd be willing to bet on him becoming a solid linebacker maybe, and I'm drafting that guy at the top of the 3rd. Maybe this could be a huge whiff on me, but like I can't justify taking him in the first 45 picks.
Well, Bobby,
there's going to be better players out there.
Well, Bobby, it's a shame you don't want to bet on Trenton Simpson, but you can bet with DraftKings because the baseball season is in full swing. Whether you're rooting for the home team or betting on your favorite player, DraftKings Sportsbook has got you covered for all this season's action. Man, that was a really good radio transition. Right now, new customers can place a $5 pregame moneyline bet and get $150 in bonus bets if your team wins. Plus, everyone can hit one out of the park with DraftKings stepped-up same-game parlays. Boost your winnings with each leg. You add up to 100%. I want you to join the big league action now on DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app and sign up with code WORLD. New customers can bet just $5 on any pregame money line and get $150 in bonus bets if their team wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with promo code WORLD. Bobby Skinner, you will certainly be glad you did.
Be glad you did. All right, next is the most interesting player in the entire draft, and a guy I'm rooting for. And that is Cincinnati linebacker Ivan Pace Jr., who's 5'10.5". My man is short. 231 pounds, though. So he stacks up with weight as long as with these guys in like 30 and a quarter inch arms. So, he's got the weight and arm length to play.
And he's
this
yoked.
Past year, after transferring from Miami of Ohio to Cincinnati, he had 136 tackles, so over 10 tackles per game, 9 sacks, 20 and a half tackles for a loss. My man was given free reign to be a downhill playmaking linebacker, and that's what he did, and he wreaked havoc for offenses. Justin, he may not have like the best testing speed, but he plays faster than anybody on this list. Like plays fast with good bursts of the ball, and his lateral ability, his ability to slip blocks, is unmatched. It's better than anybody in this class. And he just consistently beats blocks with that lateral quickness. And I think he plays stronger than the size allows him. Like, I think he can get under some guys' pads and throw blocks off them better than guys who are 6 foot, guys who are 6'3" in this class. The question, the difficulty in it is, one, the size absolutely matters. That's got to be the 1 percentile of size. And does that playing style translate to the NFL?
Yeah, projection.
Because you're not going to get free reign to just run all over the place and pass rush. And like, there's no coach who's going to be like, hey, go ahead, undercut blocks instead of staying true to your gap, because you're not going to play that way. And teams are like, it's the NFL. It's a different beast. So I love Ivan Pace Jr. I hope he succeeds in the NFL, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, this is the ultimate conversation of fun versus practical and playing the game of football, right? I'll give you some stats too. 180 pass rush snaps. This is according to PFF. 55 pressures, 18 QB hits is crazy. Led all off-ball linebackers in pressures in the FBS. He's the only player in college football to register at least 20 tackles for loss, 10 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles in 2022. I talked about Drew Sanders and his shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. Well, Ivan Pace Jr. has got the same thing with that lateral movement. He'll even go lower. So it's the thing is not, he'll shimmy, shimmy, shimmy.
He's got great dip.
But he'll go, I've seen some plays where it's like, this shouldn't be possible. You shouldn't be allowed to do that with your body. He'll go low to avoid blocks. And then how he'll attack ball carriers is he'll grab, and this is in the box, by the way. This isn't in the open field, grabbing ankles, being an ankle diver. In the box, he'll go low, avoid those blocks, grab some ankles, wait for the rest of the party and the defense to show up to get that ball carrier down. He was used a lot as a QB spy. And Cincinnati did a very good job of, he was at Miami, Ohio for the last couple of years. Cincinnati did a very, very good job with Ivan Pace Jr., 22, turning 23 in the month of December. Did a very good job with him. They didn't just ask him to be your prototypical Mike linebacker. They asked him to kind of just do what he does well.
Rush the passer and play with free reign in the run game. To just go, go, go. Just don't get blocked. It's like, don't stress about playing the right gap. Obviously, we want you, but your goal is to not get blocked, even whether that's undercutting or playing over the top, and rush the passer. Yeah. So he did. They didn't put him in coverage a ton. I think he needs better ID ability and coverage, but it's fine.
I do think that's where he could find a role right away in the NFL, though. This is a very niche role. But in a league where the most efficient play in football is when a QB drops back to pass and then runs the ball. A QB spy. If it's a 3rd and long and you're playing Lamar Jackson, if you're in the NFC West and you got Herbert and you got Mahomes in that division, and those guys, Russell Wilson, and those guys will take off and run and they will get first downs like it's nothing, then Ivan Pace Jr. could maybe serve a purpose there right away in the NFL. Hey, just spy this quarterback. It's very, very niche, very, very specific. He was the fastest linebacker on the GPS at the Senior Bowl. He was named the Senior Bowl MVP for the national team by his peers. He is a wrestling champion in high school, which apparently that if you're a former wrestler, you're just like a good NFL player.
If you want your kid to play in the NFL, have him wrestle, because it actually matters.
But carving a role in the NFL is a difficult task, at least for myself.
Yeah, it's just the size and the play style. It's you're not going to be able to do that consistently in the NFL. So yeah, I want him to be good. I am rooting for this guy. Whoever drafts Ivan Pace Jr., it's going to be a fun preseason with him, because he's going to make plays with him, and you're going to be calling for him to start, and then he might start, and then you might be a little
oh shit,
this that's my fear of the Ivan Pace Jr. So, but obviously with that that stuff, hopefully he can catch on special teams and carve out a role for him, because there also is a debate on, hey, could a guy put you out of place sometimes, but if he creates enough negative plays, is it worth it type of guy? And I think Ivan Pace Jr. falls into that. Again, we talk about him being sized, and you think this is a guy who gets bullied by offensive linemen. No, he doesn't. Like, he doesn't get bullied like the way Trenton Simpson does. Like, he gets into guys' chests with good leverage, and he's strong. And, like, there's times where he's stacking and shedding, right? Like, he's not in the most traditional way. He's kind of like, jacking up guys from getting lower than them. But, like, he does that type of stuff. But it's just, it's going to be tough to translate. But, again, like, round 5, like, and I have him as a end of the 3rd round pick. It'll be interesting to see where he goes, but I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, next on this list, I think, is a guy who is maybe overrated by some people and underrated by others, and that's Texas linebacker DeMarvion Overshown. And I like Overshown, who's 6'3", 229 pounds. Awesome athlete, man, and he flies around the field. They lined him up all over, and his change of direction is just top notch, and he's consistently getting to the ball. Like, he's got the lateral ability that the other guys we've talked about, and he actually was used well as a pass rusher doing that stuff. And I think playing the run game in the box, like, he's got a good IQ for it. Like, he fits in the run well. He's not over aggressive or put out of place. And if you get him, like, moving forward, which he does well, he stacks and sheds blocks. Like, he knows how to deconstruct a block pretty well. I think, like, so a lot of these guys are talking about, like, they like to slip the blocks. They like to slip the blocks, use their lateral ability. With Overshown, it's like he can almost do that a little more. Like, he's taking these guys on physically. You can almost, like, hey, you can slip these blocks more often. Like, bring that balance to your game. And that's why I like Overshown so much. And he's a big hitter, too. Like, he plays strength-wise. Overshown is the weirdest player, where we just talked about, like, he's physical in the box. He can play the run. His biggest negative I see is out on the corners, where he'll get bullied. Like, fullbacks or tight ends who are moving in space and taking him on, he will get flat-out bullied. But going against guards and tackles, he'll hold up just fine. He's a very interesting player who... I think he knows what he is, and he plays within that. I like Overshown, man. I think this guy's going to grow into a good linebacker.
Yeah, he's 22, turning 23 in the month of August. Very effective blitzer, especially running stunts. He had 23 pressures, 5 QB hits, and 89 pass rush snaps, according to PFF, which is pretty darn good. Former safety. I don't know if you knew that, Bobby. You like guys that change positions. Former safety who moves like one and has the range like one. Change of direction and speed are there. He's a see ball, get ball kind of player. He's long, and I think he can use, he uses his arm length to separate from offensive linemen. Showed great improvement. This is what I also like to see sometimes too. Showed great improvement from 2021 to 2022. I will say.
He did.
I will say about, being beat kind of like out on the perimeter. I kind of think that's kind of like a confidence thing. I think if there's a coaching staff that can get him confident and aware enough, I think Overshown could develop into a solid will, possibly early in his career, get stronger, get more aware. Why not? I think he's going to be able to contribute on special teams early on, 472 special team snaps in his career, played both Sam and Will in 2022. But like I said, I think, just based on this guy's size and that he's fast, I think he fits at the will. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Trivia. Which mock draft did I take DeMarvion Overshown in?
Was it like the first one? Was it was it mid-season? Mid-season mock draft. This in the middle of the season.
Be specific.
This mid-season mock draft.
Nope, the 2021 midseason.
Oh, you thought he was going to come out and he didn't. Okay.
Came out. He did a Cedric Van Pran to me.
I should have known that when you said be specific. I should have known to go back further.
Yeah, you should be more specific.
Be more specific.
Coverage-wise, I think he's fine. And, man, he's got to get better, though, Justin, because he overplays it, or he'll try and undercut it, and he'll leave him, like, killed, and that's type of stuff where with when you're covering a running back in man coverage, you're basically like your goal is to stop him from getting a 20-yard play off of it, and Overshown will allow you to do that. So Overshown, for where he's being projected and value-wise, out of the guys we're talking about, he's the one I want.
Sure.
Because I think I want this coaching staff to get his hands on him. He's less responsibility now that we signed Bobby Okereke. Like I'm looking at Pro Football Network, they have him as their 108th player, which is the start of the 4th round. I view him as a top of the 3rd round player. So he is out of all these guys, it's like, all right, matching value, where he's projected to go. Overshown is the one I want. Like obviously Jack Campbell and Sanders I think are better players, but Overshown is the one I want.
Yeah, I'm with you with viewing this off-ball, inside linebacker position that way in this draft. I don't think the Giants are going to spend kind of maybe a top 100 or a premium pick on it, but they certainly do need to add to that position, and Overshown can certainly fit into that category.
Today's episode is sponsored by SeatGeek. If you don't know what SeatGeek is, they're a ticketing app that makes buying tickets super simple. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. Justin, listeners, you guys have to go to a Devils game for me. The Devils-Rangers schedule came out, Justin.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm upset for you.
It is my personal hell. Game 1 is on a recording night, Tuesday night this week. I think we'll try and work around it, hopefully. Game 2 on a Thursday night, a recording night. Game 3 is on a Saturday night. I'm usually out Saturday nights with friends, and not like bars where you're watching games, just like hanging out. And if I'm like on my phone watching hockey, I'm a weirdo. Game 4, Monday night as I'm on the plane. All right, but I kind of expected, there's 2 days. In hockey, it's like every other day. Like they don't really give them 2-day breaks. So I'm on the plane to New York Monday night while they're playing the game. And I'm thinking, all right, Wednesday night, we're going to record our mock draft pod, though. And I'm going to go to a Devils playoff game. Very excited about that. They give them a 2-day break, and then they play Thursday night, the night of the draft. Why would they put Rangers Devils the night of the draft?
That's really bad.
And then they play Saturday night, the night of the draft, and then they play Monday night when I'm flying back home to Florida. Like, the schedule is my personal hell. Like, I can't. It's so frustrating that they did that to me. But you guys should go, and it's going to be an awesome series. There are more than 70,000 events every single day on SeatGeek, including sports, concerts, festivals, and more. They always want to make sure that you are getting a good deal. So when you're on the app, look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad. Every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And SeatGeek is the only site that let you return your tickets ahead of the event with swaps. Wow, that's new. We've got the hookup. Use code GIANTS for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase with promo code GIANTS. Click the link in the description to download the app. You'll be glad you did. And I'm looking at the Sixers Nets schedule, which it's like I don't even know. Like obviously I want to go to Nets playoff.
Don't go to that.
Well, why not?
Well, I could tell you 4 good reasons why not.
I know we suck, but it's like they're still my team. But it's probably going to be over by the time I'm in. Like
yeah, those are the 4 good reasons.
We might win one game. Like we had. Oh well.
Oh well.
Oh well.
Who's that?
Right,
who's that? Bridges. That's the Kevin Durant.
Bridges. He's really good.
It's the Kevin Durant. We always thought we would get.
I can't believe the Sixers traded him. What an idiot. Next on this list, Daiyan Henley. Daiyan, not Daiyan.
Nope. How about this, Bobby? Daiyan Henley, 6'1", 225 pounds from Washington State, 23, turning 24 in the month of November.
The oldest guy on the list.
No, I just did it. Shit. Daiyan Henley.
Daiyan, night off.
That is how it's
night off.
That's how
Justin, he is a fast, and I'm going to say a wannabe physical linebacker, which I like, who can develop into a player. Like he's got the good speed that shows up without having to like sell out. And his strength is average, but he plays the game like a strong linebacker. And again, like I like that because it's like, okay, you're not trying to, be necessarily a college superstar. You're trying to be a good linebacker. And he gets downhill while keeping his shoulders square, and he can play through those blocks and rip through them without, again, like having to turn his hips and try and, slip a block and make offensive linemen look silly. So he's just got a willingness to take on blockers. But he's just got to get better as a processor. Like, he's inconsistent, but he plays with solid instincts. And just, I like the way he plays physically. He's not really up to it at this point, so he's got to add, more strength and technique to that. But again, this is a guy who takes on blocks, keeps his shoulder squares, and will win with angles, and will work to stack and shed guys. So Daiyan Henley, I think this is a guy who will be. I think this guy's going to be a linebacker who flirts with like the starting second linebacker and first backup for a while in the NFL.
Yeah, sure. Daiyan Henley plays fast and hard. Good job diagnosing plays, reacting. He has a long wingspan and long arms, which helps, when we talk about shedding going up against offensive linemen. Very low missed tackle rate, 5.2% in 2022. That kind of surprises me because I think he's a hugger and approaches ball carriers a little high at times. He wraps, but it's not like a drive and wrap. But, he low missed tackle rate, I'll take it. Switching positions alert. You ready for this, Bobby? 2017 at Nevada, wide receiver. 2018 at Nevada, wide receiver / nickel cornerback. 2019, moved to safety / nickel cornerback full time, but 4 games in had a season-ending injury. 2020 at Nevada, finally moved to linebacker, not a full-time starter. 2021 at Nevada, linebacker. 2022, full-time starter at linebacker at Washington State. Isn't that...
2022, he said, I am so sick of Nevada moving me around. I'm going to Washington State.
Isn't that... This is your dream prospect. He's played 1, 2, 3, 4 different positions.
And again, he's played a linebacker. Like, he plays the position with a better understanding than most other guys. And I think that's why there's room for growth there. Because like you said, he is new to the position, but again, he's not this new to the position who's just flying around, trying to undercut people. It's like, no, he's taking on blocks, he's stacking, and he's working the stack and shed. If he's got an angle, he's not getting low and trying to jump around it. He's like, no, he's keeping his shoulder squares and getting through it. So, and like I said, that's why I like him, because I think he's got good instincts, but he can be an inconsistent processor. Well, again, he's fairly new to the position. He's had to play a lot of different hats in his college career. So despite him being the oldest guy on this list, I think there's a guy who can I think he's going to last in the NFL as a linebacker. Like, I don't think he's ever going to be a star or anything, but I think he's going to last in the NFL as a linebacker.
Yeah, 630 special team snaps in college, so if you play special teams, you can last a little bit in the NFL. Seems like he's just like a whatever I got to do to get on the field kind of guy, and I think NFL coaches will fall in love with him, even if he's a little older, kind of take him with the expectation that he may not play right away. Let's develop you a little bit. Let's get that football IQ up. You already have kind of like the athleticism. You already play a little bit hard. But if you're going to be
fit for what Wink Martindale wants in a lot, and that will next to Okereke.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be a hard worker and you're going to be a good guy to be around, and you're going to put the effort in, I think NFL teams will like that.
Yeah, I've got him as a end of the 3rd round guy.
Oh, that's high. It's kind of high.
I see people who have him as like a 2nd rounder.
Ooh.
Next on this list, Owen Pappoe, linebacker out of Auburn. I've been hearing this guy's name for a couple of years. 6 foot, 225 pounds. Ran a 4.39 40. Was that the fastest for linebackers? Let me double check.
Yes,
it was.
Yes, it was.
Faster
and
than Trenton Simpson.
His 4.39 40-yard dash, 1.5 10-yard split, and 29 bench press reps were number 1 among linebackers at the scouting combine.
29 bench press reps with a 4.39 40. Obviously, he's undersized at 6 foot, 225 pounds. But he has elite speed, and it shows up in coverage. It shows up in the sideline stuff. But we sound like a broken record. Strong, but needs to add some weight to play strong. Like, he needs to add some stuff like that. Here's the issue with Owen Pappoe. With all that speed, out of all these guys on this list, he is the slowest processor.
Yeah.
And he is very idle at the snap, and he lets blockers just come into his frame. And there's no instinctive plays. Like, again, There's a lack of, like, with his speed, it's like even makes him out of place plays. They don't happen. Like, there's just a lack of instincts where it's like the ball snapped and it's like, you know, the blood ain't moved in 2 years me. Got good lateral skills when he does use them. And his coverage IQ is elite, though. Like, when it's crazy how someone could be so, like, smart in coverage, and in the run game, it's just like he's frozen. Like, he's physical, he picks things up, his man coverage is awesome. Like, a choice route, which is, like, the hardest thing to cover, which is, like, the running back coming out, and it's like, all right, I could break out or I could break in. He covers those amazing. Like, he is awesome in man coverage. Like, this guy is a weapon in coverage. But we're not talking about a guy who is, you know, slow processor, but he has instincts and make play and get, like, this guy just sits. Like, it's worse than Jamin Davis out of Kentucky a couple years ago.
Yeah, Pappoe's 22, turning 23 in the month of September. He's a two-time team captain, just the fourth in school history. He's a 4-year starter. He was the Mike at Auburn. Now, here's at least the theory, and it's a stretch, Bobby. It's a stretch, but we're optimists here, right? The Mike needs to process things, right? They're the Mike linebacker, they're the leader, they're the captain of the defense, right? They need to process things. I think Pappoe, just because of his natural athleticism, is a will in the NFL. Join the party of all the guys that are, you know, weak side backers, where you're basically just going to tell them, don't think about it, don't hesitate, attack this hole, attack this gap. Does that maybe help him out a little bit? Yeah,
it does, but you still got to read what teams are doing. And as defenses are getting lighter, offenses are going to start throwing some more counter and pulling guys at you and running more gap stuff. We saw the Giants get, like, I'm telling you, the NFL is cyclical, man. Like, the way these defenses move, where it's like the too high stuff right now is huge. Teams are playing lighter. Well, offenses are going to start running the rock on these cats and throwing. That's why the Eagles had so much damn success. And you're going to need to get guys on the field. You're going to need to work back to single safety and have every gap accounted for pre-snap. But you're going to have to, like, you got to process. So it's like, as great as he is in coverage, all this athletic ability, like, you got to have, like, he makes Trenton Simpson look like Jack Campbell. You know, so that's why it's like, I view him as a fourth round, fifth round guy. Like, he's got all the athletic ability in the world, but it's like, he doesn't play, like, in the run game, he just doesn't play football. He just basically sits there and watches everything show up to him. And blocker is, if you're an offensive lineman and you were looking at all 8 of these guys, including the next guy who's the lowest rated, it's which one's the easiest to block? Physically, other guys maybe. In football, Pappoe is the easiest one to block because he's not going to move. You've got basically a stationary target.
Moving at the snap of the football is important in football. Bam, analysis.
All right, last on this list. I took this guy in the 7th round of our draft month mock draft. Coaching connection, Justin.
Yup.
Because this staff isn't full of college coaches like it was with Joe Judge. There haven't been a ton of these. Coach John Agoragru, Coach Eggs, the linebacker coach for the Giants, coached this guy at Vanderbilt, and that is Anfernee Orji, the linebacker out of Vandy. 6'1", 230, so another small guy. I'm tired of saying it. Had over 100 tackles this last year, 6.5 tackles for a loss. He is a smaller but aggressive linebacker who likes to get downhill. His speed is solid. What's up, truck? But it's best in, you know, short area situations where he's got that good burst. Quick downhill trigger. Like, this is a round 6, round 7 guy I would love to take a shot on, Justin.
Will you be buying Anfernee Orji's jersey if he is drafted to the Giants, and will you wear a shirt that says Orji on it?
If he starts the game and has, like, a Tay Crowder, like, moment, we'll make a shirt like that, and I'll wear it.
That's a tough name. Do you think we could just make shirts that say Orji on it with the G and say he spells it with a J, right?
Yeah, he doesn't spell it like that. That's his name.
I think we should make shirts that just says Orji on it. Orji gang.
You can't make shirts for 7th round picks that you expect to sell more than 10 of. Unless he turns into a star.
I will buy 10 of them.
Let's talk about him as a player. Again, he is an aggressive player, and but the aggressive nature will get him out of place. And if a block gets to him that's well angled, like taking up a block straight up, he's not bad. But if there's angled blocks, he'll get blown up by them. Like he will get just washed out of the play. And so obviously there's some issues there. For a guy who's 6'1", 230, he's not the best athlete in the world. Ran a 4.53 40, which isn't bad, but 3-cone drill and shuttle. Like, let's see where he ranked in these. 3-cone drill, he ranked second because only 5 guys freaking ran it. I'm so sick of people not testing at the combine. He had the worst short shuttle out of all the linebackers with a 4.43. Like, that's offensive lineman can run close to that. But again, I think he does move pretty well, and he's like a lot of these other guys. Like, he knows how to dip and slip these blocks pretty well. Another guy who in man coverage will get beat with bad angles to the flats, but in zone, like, I think he's got a good feel for IDing what the concepts that they're trying to run. But again, this is a guy who's going to go on day 3, 6th, 7th round pick. There is a connection to the coaching staff. They know what he's about, so like you have the insight on him. He's a guy I'd like to pick, and that's why I took him in the 7th round of my mock draft in the beginning of the month.
If he goes undrafted, he is the first name that I will be circling as the guy that we will pick up.
It'd be interesting to see, because you have a lot of linebackers who kind of fit this mold. Like, will he? I mean, I have him as a 7th rounder. And I've seen other people have him as like a 5th to 6th. I think he goes in the 7th because again, he's not going to have the athletic testing that you love, paired with the size, paired with the playing style. I think that's where he's going to go like late 6th, 7th round. But again, I like Anfernee, and you have the coaching connection there. So that's an episode. We'll be back on Wednesday. Interior offensive line. A lot of guys we got to talk about. And this is a position that I think people will be pissed off about if we don't take one of these guys in the first 3 rounds. Especially, I mean, the Giants don't have a center, so we'll be talking centers, baby. This ain't gonna be talking Giants, it's gonna be talking centers. So we'll see you on Wednesday. 3 episodes this week. We appreciate you. We'll see you then. Until then, let's go Big Blue.